Am I wrong for returning home after I found out that my husband booked first class for him and his friend while I got economy? My husband and I are both 30 and haven't been on a trip out of the country for years. While he gets to go every year with his best friend, his reason for going with him is because they both go to attend sporting events. This year, my husband told me I could go with him and his friend since they were visiting a new destination. He paid for my ticket and everything else since I'm a stay-at-home mom and have no job. The kids were left with my mom. However, when I found out that he had booked first class for himself and his friend while I got economy, I just couldn't hold my tongue. I confronted him about it, and at first he refused to discuss this. When the argument got heated, he yelled, "I paid for your ticket for God's sakes. Isn't that enough?" Then kept on about how I should stop acting like I was royalty, and that if I come to think about it, even economy is fine for me since I technically don't work anyway. I cried because of what he said and decided to just not go. He changed his tone and started begging me to just go with what he planned, but I declined. I went to pick the kids up from my mom's house, and he came back 3 hours later huffing and puffing about what happened. His friend sent me a text calling me entitled and said that this was the reason why he didn't want my husband to take me with them, and I just proved his point. I did not respond, but I blocked him since he's gotten increasingly rude over the past few months. My husband says I keep crying about being excluded, and this is what happens when he finally decides to include me. Am I wrong for not settling for economy? By the way, he's perfectly capable of financing the trip. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. This is your husband? This is supposed to be the father of your children, and he's gonna put his friend over you? Oh my, if I was the friend, I would feel like shit. If I was going with my girl best friend, I'm like, yo, you and your man go sit in business together. I'm good in economy. Why would you want to do that? Like, and the fact that he threw it back in your face that he paid for the trip. No shit, Sherlock. She's a mother of your children. You should never throw that at her. Like, what else you want her to do? She pushed out 3 kids for you. Am I wrong for not showing up to my engagement after finding out my boyfriend was planning to propose? I, 28 female, have known for a while that my boyfriend, 38 male, was going to propose. We've been talking about marriage, rings, etc. for a while. I didn't know when or where, but I thought I knew the how. This is because I've made it clear that I would absolutely hate a public proposal. The very idea gives me hives and makes me queasy with anxiety. It's a personal preference and comfort zone thing and not an opinion on other people's proposals. There have been a few times when I thought he was going to ask, but I was wrong each time. The night of the conflict was my birthday last week. We were going out to celebrate, and he had given me my gift early to wear to dinner, since it was the first time we'd be going out for my birthday since pre-COVID. We were meant to meet at the restaurant, but my dad called before I left, asking if our big announcement tonight was baby related. And if so, he'd like to congratulate me in advance in case he didn't make it due to a travel delay. You know what? It's just like a dad thing. Leave it up to dads to ruin every surprise. A few minutes into the call, I put 2 and 2 together and immediately called my best friend, who reluctantly confirmed my fears. She hadn't wanted to spoil my boyfriend's surprise, but she also tried her best to convince him to scale it down because she knew I wouldn't like what he had planned. At this point, I was very late and my boyfriend had been texting saying that I was going to make us lose our reservation. I called and asked directly if he was planning a public proposal. He couldn't deny it, and after he told me he'd reserved the entire restaurant for 75 people, I told him this wasn't what I wanted and that I'd be happy to attend, but only if he promised not to do it in front of everyone there. He said he told some people and that word got around and they were now expecting a proposal, so he was going to do it, otherwise he would have wasted everyone's time and money coordinating and getting them down there. I said that if he insisted on doing this in a way which made me uncomfortable, I wouldn't be coming at all. I hung up and at that point stopped answering because I was hurt. He's living and we've been fighting all week because I embarrassed him in front of our friends and family by not showing up. He says that I'm making a big deal of it and we both know I would have said yes, and that I'm being ungrateful because any other woman would kill for a boyfriend who would go through the trouble to make a grand gesture. While I agree that I had every intention of saying yes when I was coming, I don't like being on the spot or being made to feel obligated to say yes because of an audience. He said he won't consider proposing again until I apologize for embarrassing him and promise to chill out about my preferences in the future. I don't feel like I should because he knew I would have preferred something more intimate and romantic. So, am I the asshole? My husband got our girlfriend pregnant without discussing it with me. My husband, 38 male, and I, 30 female, are in an open marriage. Okay, now it makes sense. We've been married for 5 years and open for the past 2 years. Currently, we have a long-term girlfriend, 26 female, that we both have been with for just over a year. I am also 30 weeks pregnant, and we're all so excited to welcome our daughter into the world soon. Our relationship and time in the bedroom has never been better until the other day when our girlfriend announced her pregnancy to us. I was so surprised. I didn't know she had been seeing anyone else. After I congratulated her, I asked her who was the father, and she said that my husband was. This was something that we never talked about at all, so I politely asked her to leave while I discussed this with my husband. Apparently, her seeing me pregnant and so excited convinced her that she was ready for motherhood herself, and she told my husband that she would be stopping her birth control. My husband never told me this, and neither did our girlfriend. So for the entire time we've been together for the past few months, they've been having completely unprotected intercourse without my knowledge, which was not part of our arrangement. I'm still his wife and she's just our girlfriend. I feel so betrayed by my husband to just go behind my back like that. They don't understand why I'm mad. They think I should be happy. I was aware that my husband has a breeding fetish, so do I, but this is much different than just role-playing situations, and they don't seem to understand that. I don't know how else to express to them how disrespectful that was to me. We had a written agreement that birth control is to be used with our partners. We even discussed in that same written agreement that any pregnancies would not continue if it were to fail, but this was intentional and non-consensual.
Am I the asshole for yelling at my wife in front of my family for putting salt in my mom's birthday cake? So my wife, 24, is the main cook in the apartment. She cooks whenever we have guests over, and for ages, my mom has been complaining about my wife not adding enough salt in her meals. My wife would take it personally and start a fight over this small comment my mom makes. My wife and I hosted dinner weeks ago, and mom made the same comment about my wife not using enough salt, even though my wife swore she did and said she was careful with salt, but my mom still insisted the food was tasteless. The family were divided on this, so we couldn't really decide if my wife really did use enough salt. My wife started crying after they left, saying my mom was being deliberate with this salt remark to make her look like a bad cook. But I told her it's not true and she needed to let it go, and she did. For my mom's birthday, my wife offered to make the birthday cake, saying she found a really great recipe on a cooking blog. Mom wasn't excited for the idea, but I told my wife to do it thinking it would be a nice gesture to help them get past their conflict. During the party, my wife insisted my mom be the first to taste the cake. Mom grabbed a piece, and once she put it in her mouth, she immediately got it out while spitting onto the plate. We freaked out and got her some water while she was yelling that there was salt in the cake. I looked at my wife and she said she had no idea what my mom was talking about. I immediately went to get a piece and taste some and found it was full of salt. Still, my wife acted confused, but I told her how fucked up it was for her to put salt in the cake. She said that since mom was obsessed with salt, then she figured she'd prefer it over sugar in her birthday cake. I was flabbergasted. I blew up and berated her in front of my family till she took her bag and went home. I went home and she refused to speak, except to say that I hurt her by yelling at her and that I should have told my mom off when she kept making remarks about her cooking. I told her she acted childishly and ruined the birthday party. Now she's acting like the wronged party, but I let her know she has to apologize to my mom. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for refusing to sign anything while my eyes are blindfolded? Ever since I got out of the hospital for chronic problems, my husband has been introducing me to some fun games every evening. One game used to be about doing things while my eyes are blindfolded, involving puzzles, Rubik's Cube, shaped objects, etc. We'd take turns to do it just for entertainment. Well, just a couple of days ago, he's been trying to get me to sign papers while wearing a blindfold. I refuse to do it because he never lets me take a look at what I'm signing either before or after. He says that he was just trying to see if I could leave the same signature every time I sign, but I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. I told him I don't want to play this game unless and until he shows me the papers first. He said, quote, "Never mind then," and stopped bringing it up. Last night, he tried to convince me to give it a try and even volunteered to go first. I asked if he was going to show me what I was going to sign, and he made a face and said, "No, it's the rules, and I should respect them." I refused, and he kept on about how I keep acting worried and suspicious for no reason. He said I clearly don't trust him, and he was hurt by finding that out now after everything we've been through. We had an argument, and I told him to drop it and not bring it up again, period. He was mad despite saying it was no big deal. He was obviously upset with me and kept talking about how I don't trust him and that I was out of line to assume or suspect anything from him like this. I might be paranoid, but I couldn't help it. I do think I was the asshole to him after he stood by my side when my own family didn't even visit.
My husband hit me for the first time and I'm still in shock. My 23 female, husband 26 male and I have been married since February 2020. We joked when it happened that we had the perfect timing since a lot of my friends ended up with relationship strife and breakups over the last couple of years. Currently, we have one daughter who is 7 months old. I stay at home with her most of the time. My husband works in management for an up-and-coming company and is often gone 9 to 10 hours a day, so I do all of the housework. This is usually totally fine with me. This week, I did a lot of cooking and baking and haven't been as diligent as I should have been with dishes. So I let them build up in the sink quite a bit. My husband mentioned it yesterday morning when he was grabbing coffee and I told him I plan on doing them in the afternoon. He grumbled a little but didn't argue. Then yesterday afternoon, I ended up getting a surprise visit from one of my friends who brought her 2-year-old for a play date. Our kids love each other and always have a lot of fun, so that's how the afternoon passed. My friend left at 4:30 or so and I immediately started dinner and the dishes. My husband got home at 5:30. Dinner was just finishing up. Dishes were about 75% done. I rinsed my hands and left what was remaining in the sink, grabbing clean plates so we could eat. My husband said something to me like, "Couldn't even finish the dishes? What have you been doing all day?" Oh, this is gonna get ugly. My husband and I like to tease each other good-naturedly, so I assumed this was more of the same. I said something like, "Dinner is ready and I like to eat it while it's hot for once in my life." My husband didn't say anything, but he did backhand me across the mouth and then he told me not to disrespect him again. I was in complete shock because he never acts this way. It was a complete 180 out of the blue. Even in arguments with men, I've never seen him threaten to raise a hand to them. I'm so confused and I'm scared to bring it up and I don't know what to do. How does a woman leave a man when she has no money, no income, no supportive family, and a kid? If not for our daughter, I think I would have told him to F off and walked out that exact moment. But my worst fear is her ending up homeless or worse, him getting full custody because I don't have a safe place to house her. My mom is my only living family and she's a barely functional alcoholic, so I'm not sure what she could do even if she wanted to. And then a part of me says that this is a huge overreaction and that my daughter would hate me for leaving her dad over one measly fight.